action is this, right? So I'm thinking he still refers to that as the first clue, and the first stanza will be like setting up the hunt for him.
Several searchers have solved at least the first two clues. Some people have even been within 200 feet of the checkpoint. So several searchers have solved at least the first two clues. And then it becomes, well, what are the first two clues?
Does anyone think it has to do with metronome or any musical or poem related scheming that you would need to figure out?
That's kind of what I meant whenever I asked if the first two clues were confirmed to be in the poem, because he technically didn't say they were. He just said that the first two clues had been found. He never pointed out that they were in the poem, and Justin's kind of devious like that. I feel like he kind of like obfuscates to. Again, he like sleight of hands it sometimes.
Check that picture I just posted in the chat, though. That's his comment from the Q&A. So he seems pretty clear. The question is, what is the first clue in your poem? And then he says, it's as hope surges clear and bright.
First actionable clue.
The first actionable clue. But he was asked what's the first clue. So, yeah.
We discussed it last night on Discord, and we came up with a lot of stuff, but nothing really definitive that would zero you in on an area besides, like just not anything you couldn't use for another state if you wanted that to be your soul.
Hold on, from what was actually said, and I'm reading that from the chat here. He actually did say the most actionable first clue. So it's not first actionable clue, it's most actionable first clue. He still refers to it as the first clue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go with that's the first clue.
Could be.
Okay, so if the first clue is... Oh, go ahead. So if the first clue is hope surges clear and bright, walk near water's silent flight, how do you solve that? How do you figure out where the location is from that? As hope surges clear and bright, walk near water's silent flight. That could be the first clue. That could be the first two clues. But I'm not seeing enough to figure out what it means. And maybe it's not even a location, but maybe it's just what it means.
I'm hoping you and K-Pro can ask the hearse this. In the scene where their whole family was driving around in episode 2 of the 3 of the Netflix series, and they were at the bridge over Sunlight Basin, was Justin on that trip, or did he recommend that trip, or did the producers take them on that trip? Maybe based on Justin's recommendation, because that would be the scene he wasn't in but had some control over. And then you've got, Sunlight Basin as an obvious clue in the Netflix series, and then Sunlight Basin kind of has they were out of hope and out of options, but then they found Sunlight Basin, so that's hope surging clear and bright. But on the other hand, if that's it, I mean, he gave away the answer to the hearse and anyone else who was in on that.
Does anyone think that hope is a body of water, as in a river or some other form of body of water?
It's actually a good idea because it could surge clear and bright, right?
It could. The comma between that sentence there kind of signals to me that it might be two separate things in one line. As hope surges, comma is one complete thought, and then clear and bright, maybe not even necessarily directly related to the first part.
I think of that comma as an interjection, like the clear and bright are qualifying, the hope surging, but then you continue to the next one. Instead of dividing into two sentences, it's more like joining um, walk near water, silent flight. Like as hope surges, walk near water, silent flight. But he was just qualifying what the surging hope was. It was clear and bright, but yeah, I think it's kind of joining the other two sentences.
I like that, but I tried to wrap my head around the word surges and the word silent because typically they just have nothing to do with each other. So, as hope surges clear and bright, if you want to read that together, and then walk near water, silent flight, you would assume that you're doing two actions very close together. But if there's a body of water, a river, or something surging, there's not going to be any silent flight near it unless it's, to be read in metaphor and not taken at face value. So it's kind of a thought.
I mean, to be honest, in my head, it's not necessarily like it could be water as hope surges, but it could also be light, sunlight, right? Like as it comes up every morning or something like that. So and then you will be near the water's silent flight and walking it. Even if the other thing is like sunlight. So like it could be two different things that are surging and that you need to walk, but still when you're seeing that, do this. That's my interpretation.
I like that.
Can it be a river that's surging clear and bright and the silent flight is a waterfall? In other words, when the water actually goes off the cliff or whatever it is, that part's silent. Of course, it's going to make noise when it hits at the bottom, but
But if you're far away from the bottom, though, you cannot hear it, right? Like
true.
like a tall waterfall. You can hear the roar at the bottom too well, I guess. Kind of silent at the top.
Waters being, I don't know, the way it's written there, are you guys taking that as being silent flight is a quality of the water, or is that plural, whereas in there's more than one waters?
Oh, it's for sure plural. It's one
Okay.
more than one water because the apostrophe is after the S, right?
Yeah. So it is possible to have something as large as a waterfall be considered silent flight, given that we have, excuse me, several waterfalls in the western United States that seasonally could be flowing slow enough that as the water cascades down, it might literally just dissipate into a mist, blow off to the sides, or just generally not make a lot of sound.
Agree. It could be like seasonally silent
Mm-hmm.
and still flying. I could also interpret it to be like kind of like a thermal feature, that it's steamy, so the water is silently flying. That was my first interpretation a few months ago. So that's one view of that as well.
So let's say that's it. Let's say we're onto it. Then it becomes, how do you narrow it down in the American West? How do you know what state? I mean, I know a lot of people just think Montana, and I guess we could focus on Montana, but how do you figure out where, and I guess have an idea that you're right?
That's a wonderful question. I mean, I'll jump in real quick with just my thoughts on that. And that um, something I've come to learn about treasure hunting is that, you really have to assign values to the weight of things and clues that you pick up on. So if something carries multiple weights, logical, physical, location, plus emotional weight in the mind of the author, then it might, have a higher point value for you to record. And you add enough of those up and you consolidate to a location that might nail down a state for you more clearly than others. Now, Montana, as you mentioned, would be a very logical one, but a lot of this gentleman's history has to do with the American Southwest. So I don't think it would be out of the question to say that, yeah, it could be anywhere, but there are some heavy weights involved here with desert type scenery as well, mentioned throughout the book.
So Arizona, possibly.
Yeah, could be, could be.
I'm saying that it could be Montana, Wyoming, Idaho area, of course, Arizona, and New Mexico. That would be my top 3 areas.
I was feeling, you know, Montana, Wyoming, Arizona. I mean, especially after you get the audio book and you get the extra, the bonus chapter in there. That's happening in Arizona, right? That's right on that's a border town there they're talking about. So it kind of drags you right back down to home. And if you think home is where the heart is, and this, this whole story is touching to Justin and close to the heart, it may very well be a signal that it's closer to home for him and not necessarily where a lot of his fond memories about fishing were up north.
What do you guys think about geothermic pools that, of course, you have steam leaving those holes in several areas within the Western United States? Could be this. Just a thought that I had early on. What are your own thoughts?
I like it because I don't know if anybody heard me say it on a Discord there, but there's a lot of references to things that have a strong odor in the book that cause a reaction, especially in the bonus chapter where it's just a sickening smell as soon as you open the door. And we were discussing that and thinking, it might not just be a hunch or data or sight that gets you to the location. It might involve more sensory input, such as a smell. Something might not smell the best in a geothermal vent or something like that, could be giving off the odor of sulfur. So this is certainly a possibility in my mind.
There's also the potential for multiple peaks in the same area and snow melting, right? This is another hunch I had, but I'm not sure what your guys' thoughts are on that as well.
Are you using the peaks as a reference to try and triangulate a location, or are you just saying like you think it fits part of the later poem clues about foot of three, maybe? Is that what you're referencing?
Well, I just think water is silent flight, right? So it could be
Oh,
multiple peaks that are melting and flowing into streams, right? And that would have fit later on into foot of three.
that's a good thought. I mean, my take on if I'm taking it at face value, water's silent flight to me, might signify a wash or something, even in a desert. Like I know a lot of people are focused on the north, and that's like I said, it's heavily weighted. It's a great idea, but on the other side of the coin, there it could be that we're looking at a dry wash or a slot canyon. There's a lot of references to male in the book. I don't know if anybody's aware of that, but if you look into that a little bit, it might take you down some different avenues. But you know, silent flight to me says, I mean, people have noted snow, fog, mist coming off a giant waterfall where it doesn't actually touch the ground, just kind of dissipates before it gets there. Some place that it goes underground, disappears for a while, and comes back. A lot of interpretations on that. It's fun to think, but hard to nail down.
You also have seasonal creeks and rivers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That image of the treasure that was just on the screen. Thought it was interesting that one Swiss gold bar had some numbers in the 40s on it, but the other one says 0523, and I think that's around the time in the book Justin claims to have hurt his leg. Was it? I don't know if it was March or May, but somebody said there in the chat, Fenn's End was his starting point. I don't know who else gave that some thought, but to me, I feel like if you were going to start a treasure and it's going to be your legacy, I mean, I understand, he wants a lot of similarities. Maybe he enjoyed that, but I think the things he didn't enjoy would cause him to create his own legacy, which to me says he wouldn't be starting at 9 Mile Hole, even though the proper noun in hole there is legitimate, but it just doesn't seem original enough for a guy that intelligent. It seems like he would want to put it in a different location. And if you're already boots on the ground at the same point you were in Fenn's Hunt, you end up in the same general area. So that's why my solves wouldn't begin there.
Well, I certainly don't think you have to be boots on the ground on the first clue or line or two, especially if you take into account how he said from the first clue to the end, he's having like a hard time saying how far it is. He said it's like if you knew what he knew, you'd know that's a hard thing to answer. So I don't know that we have to assume that, but also he did say that Fenn's End was his starting point. He like in the book, something about his end was the launching point of his. But also what I put in the chat, just I think it's worth looking at episode 2 in the documentary. Go to 3828. It's the
Yeah.
infamous triple tap scene where he triple taps iron pipe. I know that's been talked about a lot, but watch the sequence of events. He triple taps iron pipe, and then it's Fenn and Justin talking about the Madison, Gibbon, and Firehole waters. And Justin even says waters in his same way of saying waters. And then they talk about how you go down the canyon, and then it shows a triple tap 9 Mile hole again. So that sequence of events is triple tap iron pipe, talk about waters, triple tap 9 Mile hole. So it could be that hope is surging clear and bright from the iron pipe. You walk near the steamy, you walk down the steamy Madison to 9 Mile hole, and that's just the launching point of it, not where the treasure is an idea. And this has been, 9 Mile hole is talked a lot about, so certainly will qualify under several people have figured out the first couple clues.
Doesn't he also triple tap when he's, I guess, looking at the Forrest Fenn box? He triple taps the stick that was in the picture, something like that.
That does sound familiar, I think.
I don't remember what episode or
sure.
timestamp it was at, but the little stick was missing a piece of it, and so he has like the stick in his hand on top of the picture where he was searching, and you can see the subtle difference between the stick and the one that's in the picture, and there's like a little piece missing, and he's tapping right at like what's missing.
Another thing that is actually not in my main solve, but if you go not to the hole, but past the hole, if you continue the Madison and just keep going for a little bit, you do get to that picture where he is looking off into the distance. It's the mountains, and there's that little funny looking tree. People have identified the location. Like exactly, it's right on the Madison there. So technically, it could be not 9 Mile hole, but you go past the hole to that picture location. I think the fact that he tapped 9 Mile hole, I don't know, it at least suggests that is the hole that he's talking about.
I do have 9 Mile hole as one, like the hole in one of my solves as the starting launching point, as you were mentioning. So I agree.
We have it as a waterway solve as well. It starts with 9 Mile hole, and also primarily because he says in the beginning of the when he says to Forrest Fenn, whose treasure was my destination and something became my launching point. Sorry, I've got very little sleep, but so that's one of the reasons we use it for a waterway solve.
So I was on a Discord chat a little earlier, and we were talking about some of the Q&A stuff, and I forget which question was asked, but someone asked Justin about, was it difficult to answer the question because you have to reiterate through the poem clues more than once? And the way Justin talks, he obfuscates and whatnot, and he didn't deny that was correct. All he said was, no, that's not why it's difficult. And I think the question was about like the distance between the first clue and the last. So I thought that was interesting.
So are you saying you think he runs through the clues twice, or the poem twice for clues?
At least more than once.
So I had some thoughts on that, guys. What if Hope is Hope Star and distance from Earth to Hope Star? Like, yeah, how are you really going to determine exactly what that is? So if it's Hope Star and Hope Star is surging clear and bright and it's pointing you in a direction or need to point you to a direction, how are you gonna get that distance? You know what I mean? And maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, I was just trying to say, like, he didn't deny that you have to reiterate through the poem clues more than once. All he said was that's not why it's difficult to answer.
It's just something I never thought of so far.
I think it's the wrong question to ask, he said. I see he pasted that in the chat there. Um,
If I were to say I know exactly what he's talking about, would anyone even believe me?
Only if you tease us with something a little more specific than that.
It's in the first stanza.
Hmm.
Does anyone else believe that this treasure hunt and others are all connected?
In what way?
I'm kind of a new searcher this year, due to the Netflix documentary and everything. But just past podcasts I've listened to with JCB and how he explains his hunt, a lot of stuff coincides with Beyond the Map's Edge and stuff that Justin says, like terminology they use and the way they talk about different things, like is very similar.
Well, I think I could probably tell you a little bit about that, but my first hunt was commercial hunt would have been In Search of a Golden Horse in 1986, I guess, 84, 86. And they use the same terminology then. And that gentleman is still doing ciphers, and he's actually got a Discord channel. His name's Dr. Krypton. And he's an intelligent man, and they're still writing these same treasure stories based on a lot of that that system that they have.
Yeah, part of me, since I'm like new to this whole thing and kind of learning a lot, one of the things that I think I've learned, which might be a accurate statement to say, is that the treasure hunting community is pretty tight and inclusive and has a lot of fun and all that kind of stuff. And so when I was thinking about if Justin was trying to do something different and whatnot, like what if he included a lot of people from the treasure hunt community to be a part of his treasure hunt, and everyone had their own little kind of piece of the pie that they did. I don't really have any proof of any of that. It's just stuff I've seen and noticed from
Let me
the
let me
outside.
ask you a question, and I apologize. My grandchildren are playing some games, so it might be loud at my house. Um, but wouldn't that negate the fact where he says he's the only one who knows about it?
Yeah.
Well, he's the only one that knows where the treasure is.
Well, I think he
I'm,
actually says to him another one, and I have to find it where he's like, basically, don't like has somebody had called his mother, and he's like, these people, nobody knows about anything about this but me.
yeah, I'm not sure what to say to that, but I'm just thinking that there are different people in the treasure hunting community that have kind of like NDAs in place that where they're maybe not allowed to talk about being a part of it,
Well,
and
there's
they're
a
kind of
lot
like
of
playing
us.
along.
There's a lot of people that were in the Forest Fen treasure that know each other, and of course, Justin was one of those people, and he used to hunt with Cynthia, back in 2018, and so I think that's where you see a lot of people knowing each other, and I don't necessarily think that they're in cahoots or a conspiracy or trying to get a piece of the pie. I think there's going to be a lot of people upset if if he's giving hints to people that he knows out there because
Well, I'm not saying he's giving hints to anyone. It's like the other people are not part. They're not searchers. They're kind of actors.
oh yeah, I
And
don't.
and so like one thing that kind of like I can try to compare this to is, when I saw the Netflix documentary and they were talking about the auction that went on, like Netflix kind of like made it seem that like he didn't have any control over the treasure going to auction, but in fact he like wanted it to go to auction to make sure that a lot of people in the community got a piece of the forest fen hunt because so many people spent a lot of time, on it and stuff like that. So that was like one of the things that he did that kind of made me think like, okay, he's like a good guy and he cares a lot about the community and wants to share it with a lot of people. So what if he's doing the same thing with this treasure hunt where he has certain podcast personalities and whatever kind of playing roles or other, searchers that were searchers in the past, maybe just playing a role now kind of thing. It was just a thought. I don't have
Well, I
any
know that.
concrete evidence or whatever, but it's
Well,
just stuff that's been observing that kind of makes me think about it.
we watched the auction was live, and there's a lot of people, including K Pro and Mike and Ben and Ashley, as well as Toby and Shelly, and they all bid on different pieces. And his whole treasure definitely isn't in that trunk. He had to add to it. There's a lot of people out here that do have coins and gold nuggets and gold dust and everything. It was just what was left. I mean, that auction went pretty quick, and then all of a sudden it died down because people don't have 10, 20, $30,000 just for one item. Once you get into heavy weights and stuff like that, people didn't mind buying a $20 gold piece for $180, but they didn't want to buy an actual gold nugget that was going to cost them 7,000. I mean, so those are the things that got put back in the chest. Um, I, as far as him as a person he's kind of a Robin Hood guy, I guess, but you have to realize that he worked for Disney Animation. He's worked on a lot of different fun projects, and I think he just wants life to be fun that way. Besides the computer programming, I think he wants to give back because him and his brother. I mean, it does build a memory base for you, and he's still a young man, so he can build his legacy from this and continue to go. And I don't think by any means we've seen the last of him or or his ability to shock and awe people by putting something that's close to $2 million with without an armed guard out in the middle of nowhere, and walking away from it. So no, I don't think the only conspiracy theories that I would have is the way that Finn's treasure was found, and that has nothing to do with how his was hidden. Now, if this ends up, it was found, and the guy doesn't want to be, notified, and they don't want to tell you where it is, then yeah, we're all going to have another problem, I guess. But besides that, no, I think he's legitimately trying to do two things, and just like Disney is, or has always been, it's first to entertain, and then make it worth your while. And if none of us that are here today find that treasure, we're still being entertained. It's a way to pass the time and dream the dream. It's basically a big lottery, is what it is, but you have to actually go and get it. So if you can outthink the thinker, then the treasure is yours.
I have a pretty big clue along these lines I could share, I think. So we all know that there is one person holding a portion of this treasure, and I always forget the word that he uses. It's not the curator or
Steward.
Steward.
That's exactly it. Okay. So in the series, Sven's lawyer is interviewed, and he's the one with the pictures of Lincoln on the wall. If you look on the front of his desk, there's a little red German car that matches extremely well the one in Justin's garage, and it's very out of place. And my guess is he is the steward. There are other clues in that scene that pretty much lock this in for me. I won't go too much into that, though.
So, like Elon Musk.
I'm not sure what Elon Musk means.
I'm just saying, as a steward.
No, I mean, I believe that the steward is Sven's lawyer, because he said he had
Carl. It's Carl.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's Carl. Yeah.
Yeah, he said he had some creative control of another scene, and I think that would indicate the steward. And that red car is a dead giveaway. And if you look on the desk, it also says, "All you need is love and a dog." That's very, very Justin.
I know. Okay, so even if it is Carl, do you think that there's insight to that? Because I've never heard Carl mentioned, besides being an attorney, as to being help in the actual hiding, or the idea, or the publicity of the.
I think other than being the steward, he agreed to do some things in that scene. I guess that's all I'm willing to say. It gives away a whole bunch more if I say too much. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Do you think the scene with Carl helps with the clues in the poem as well?
I know for a fact that there are things that correlate to other parts of the show. Go ahead. And the book, actually.
And I can see a lawyer being the steward because there's legal documents, etc. So I got Carl over anybody else. What's going on? Still know how it helps, but
research complete.
FPV ready.
So when you were saying the lawyer maybe was told to do certain things, does that go along with what I was kind of saying about people being kind of play actors in this whole thing?
Command center upgrade complete.
I mean, to a certain extent, he definitely agreed to do some things. Whether he's the steward or not, it's just my educated guess, based on, to me, it's an obvious connection. I have no doubt, but whether he knows where the treasure is, I highly doubt it. It's a very simple things he asked. I would assume.
STV ready. In the rear with the so.
And I mean, how many lawyers in the whole country have any experience with this kind of thing?
What's our target? STV ready.
Well, no, I think you have a good point there. I don't know how it's relevant to us finding the treasure, unless he's, well, again, what, like 1 cup or 2 cups? I mean, is that, again, it's
That's pretty close, actually.
well, that's what I mean. I mean, I've never even watched all of them. The reason I'm going to tell you guys this right now, I just now bought the book and I haven't opened it except for to look at the map. I don't, on normal treasure hunts, I usually don't go all in for everything until I don't want, I put up blinders through what they tell me the minimal that I have to solve it. And then I add to that later, because that way you kind of go into everything fresh without the confusion. All I know is the booklet doesn't have a clue in every chapter. And I don't think that they're clues as much as they're hints. So I've gone to 4 different solves that I've used almost every clue too. So I think there are layers. I think it's him just trying to tell us which one you want to keep.
You scared me. STV ready. This better be good.
Hey, Cowlazars, you have a hot mic.
Oh, sorry. So is anybody who thinks the poem is not about water? That first clue doesn't have to do with a water source? I'd be interested in ideas other than water.
Well, I mean, if we like, I'm not saying it's sunlight basin, but if it's light, that's an actual water source. The name is just light based, right? So it could still be water, but naming matters.
I think it has something to do with water, but not the way that we know it. I think it has to do with clouds, actually.
So speaking of poem clues, on page 42, the illustration, does anyone else think those little light gray arc marks under the wheels are double arcs on granite bold? Granite being a word, I guess, describe the road. Maybe the color of the arcs.
I'm stuck working with the ebook. Can you describe it a little bit, like which picture it is, or?
It's the chapter, or the story is The Concrete Kiss, and the picture is Justin kind of like falling off his bike as he's going down the hill.
Yeah.
So there's two little arcs underneath the bike tires that Justin's on. This was something I was looking back into a while back when the whole 42 thing got brought up.
I think the raccoon in that picture is definitely significant. And I noticed something. So look at those. But I've noticed the raccoons seem to kind of all point to him finding his first treasure, I think it was a 50 cal bullet. Because he was wearing that shirt. And I think it all kind of falls back to that spot whenever you see the raccoons. They're big clues.
I agree that the raccoons are clues, but in Indian lore in that area, raccoons are tricksters, or they like to play games. Not so much what I would call a red herring, but I think a diversion. Um, and I mean that's what, like, the Shoshone Indians and the Crow Indians, they all list raccoons as tricksters. So I kind of thought that was interesting.
The last paragraph of that chapter stood out to me as being interesting. I know a lot of people were focused on the artwork there with the raccoon hiding in the background. I've been all but ignoring the raccoons, but it does say scattered across the pavement like the world's most depressing Easter egg hunt. And Easter eggs, as most of you know, when they're hidden somewhere, it's a clue or a nod to something. So, and there are many mentions of things that are shiny and crystals and things like that. So, thought that was worth noting.
Did anyone else get double arcs on granite mold from page 42 illustration?
Well, hey, what are you guys gonna do with the treasure when you get it? I'm gonna start a treasure hunt in my small town to bring local business. I think Justin really pumped up a lot of small towns up there in Montana. So I want to bring some to Utah next.
Those small towns definitely need it.
I'm gonna run with it. I'm kidding. I mean, don't get me wrong, but like I'll probably have it sometime. Plan something. Like a hunt because that's fun and nice to keep it going, and possibly keep at least half, and see what I come up with as an idea for the rest.
Yeah, hopefully whoever finds it pays it forward in some way, however they decide to do it. But it'd be cool to have another something treasure hunt of some kind. I mean, just the dragger bracelet by itself, I think would be pretty cool.
Right. Like, I'll keep the meteorite rock, the Bitcoin, and all the gold coins, and probably have the bracelet and the oak shilling because that's also a notable item. That is like likely to become famous, and some other new stuff, right? That I can get in there. Like keep one for Forrest and one for Justin in.
About a giveaway at TreasureCon.
How about a treasure hunt at TreasureCon? But yeah, exactly.
So I'm just reading the Concrete Kiss again, and on page 41 in the hardcover book, it says mother raccoons chose this fallen fortress as their nursery, weaving an unseen thread of connection through time. Wonder if that has any reference to the finding what lives in time.
I totally missed that. That's a good catch.
All right, read it one more time.
At the bottom of page 41 on the hardcover, the paragraph starts, several generations had lived there. He's talking about the fallen cottonwood tree. And it goes on to say, mother raccoons chose this fallen fortress as their nursery, weaving an unseen thread of connection through time.
Well, if raccoons are part of it, then we might as well all go to Sinks Canyon, right? Because that's that cartoon, that little raccoon sitting in a sink, the water's spilling out over the sides. He's holding fish bones, and that's on his list. So maybe that's where it's at.
The very next paragraph mentions wonder as well.
Well, I know that. I know there's a lot of history besides just Sinks Canyon that with the Indian lore and stuff up there too. So yeah, I mean maybe it's a way to pull people in rather than to push them out. There's only the other raccoon that I remember was the train when his mom's train got shot at or something. Somebody said that there's a raccoon in that picture too. So, but I didn't think that he was there when that happened. So I don't know. It's only like a 2-page story, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few things in the Concrete Kiss story that's stands out, poem words and other things that seems like there's a lot of clues in that story.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's everybody's state of preference? I'm in Colorado. My state of preference right now is a toss up between Montana and Alaska.
I'm going to
Montana.
your state, buddy. I love Colorado. That's where I'm headed.
Well, I'm going to be in Utah in a week from today on my way to Nevada.
Which way are you coming from? I'm actually in Vernal, Utah. So
Oh,
pretty much.
I'll go
I
through
know.
there.
Oh, cool.
I'll drop down 80 out of Park City and head out across the flats to Wendover.
Oh, fun. Yeah. That's a good time.
Well, it's going to be a hot time. It's supposed to be like 94 here next Friday. So I don't know. So I'm pulling the trailer out there. Then I'll be staying there probably through the winter, and then I'll head out again. Unless it's found, and then I won't have to head out anywhere until I join another one.
Hi, my name's Smedley, and I'm a fenaholic, and I'm in Montana.
Good for you. So I might chew on your ear sometime.
Well, I don't live in Montana, but I've been there. Yeah, I think I've spent almost 4 weeks there, and I'm going back Monday. So.
Well, that sounds good. So is there a certain area that you just staying in, or are you searching a bunch of different places?
No, I have one primary location.
Good.
So there's a lot to cover there, and I know he says we'll know where once we reach the checkpoint, and possibly no need to go boots on the ground, but I still firmly believe that seeing is believing, and that light bulb can come on anytime, and it's more likely with me to come on while I'm there. So
Yeah, no, I get that. I have all but a complete solve there in Montana. I've actually had 4 in Montana, but they're all based off the same criteria. It's just one took me further than the other 3. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who walks away from it, and he seems to think maybe this summer somebody will.
Has anyone ever found treasure before? I metal detected in Old Town and found a silver spoon, and my shop burned down and dropped about $800 of silver coins out of the rafters when I was cleaning it up.
I spent a lot of time in ghost towns growing up around here, and a lot of tin cans and telephone pole insulators, but that was back in the 70s when I did most of that with my dad. And my grandfather was a miner on Cache Creek in Colorado and was washed out by a flood in 32 or 34. And we went back in 73, I guess, and pulled a lot of gold out of the Arkansas River that had mercury on it. I guess that's treasure that had already been collected and recollected. And so it's just been part of my family for a long time. But I'm interested. I also do treasure hunts that most people don't go out and hide a treasure and then say, go find it. Most people hide their treasure so they can go back and get it, or for nobody else gets it, or, because they don't trust the banks, or, there's a ton of reasons. And those are usually the fun ones to go after. Virginia Dale and the Poudre River and um, even the Dutchman Mine, and all those are interesting. And to be 30 years younger again and still fight that fight would be crazy now, because now everybody's got GPS and metal detectors that can register gold, and it really making life easier on the treasure hunter, but you still need your brain. You still need your brain. So
Where are you in Colorado? And
Um,
the reason I was going to ask is, have you ever hunted around the like Silver Cliff, West Cliff area?
yeah, I lived in Leadville for a long time, and um, I was born in Boulder, and I'm up in a county called Weld County right now, um, at the farm, and then I go down to. I went to high school in a town called Loveland, but my niece's husband has a cabin down in Pagosa, and I fished all that area as a young man. I haven't. Um,
Yeah, I lived in Pagosa for quite a few years.
yeah,
My
beautiful
my
area.
my wife used to work at Ski and Bow Rack.
Yeah, beautiful area, and you know, I I haven't been back to there or fishing in any of that area since. Gosh, well, I went to California for about 30 years, and I just came back after retiring, and good old COVID told me I had to retire, so here I am. But yeah, we used to go to all those old little ghost towns in those areas, and um, I still have a lot of the maps that my grandfather had, and uh, I'll pull them out every once in a while. They're out in a 5 gallon bucket out in the barn right now, but it's we pulled them out last year, I think, and there's still some interesting spots that you forget about, and they would have marked them up to maybe go pan this out or dredge this out, and look around this area, or old abandoned claims and stuff. And um, when gold was $36 an ounce, it went crazy. People thought that was great, and then it pretty much leveled out for a long time at about 70, and now it's up to almost $2,000 an ounce now. Um, you know, now it's gotten to a point where, hey, maybe it's worth the sweat and the hard work. Because I'm here to tell you, as a 17, 18-year-old boy, it was hard work to break ore and pan out stuff. I mean, that's hard work. I mean, you might as well be in a chain gang, but but that's but you know what, it wasn't uncommon to make $40 a day then. Back in the 70s, $40 a day was a good piece of change. So um, I do enjoy the old stories, and I do enjoy the truckload of dimes that went off the cliff in Black Canyon out in your area, and and stuff. And people are still finding dimes every once in a while out there. $2 million in dimes falls into a river, you know. You got to figure out how to stop that river, But they're good stories. Most of them are true to a point. You got to know, just like this treasure hunt, you got to know how much maybe you could swallow, and then and how much is drama and effect, especially in writing, because writing, the hill was steep and treacherous, and then you get there and it's a straight up cliff. So or the opposite, there's no hill here. I went and looked for treasure on the highest point in Nebraska, and there's actually a monument there, and we thought maybe somebody buried something there. So we went out there, and I was probably 20, drove out there, found it, based on, you can go to the highest point in Nebraska. It's 4x4 fenced off area, and you go out there, and you could still stand on a Dixie cup and see the rest of the state, but this was just the highest place. I think it was, it's probably 4,000, 5,000 feet above sea level, but it's still just a big wheat field or prairie field or whatever you want to call it. So see for 100 miles in any direction. So, different people, you imagine different things. Go to the highest point in Colorado, you're on top of Mount Whitney versus, going to Nebraska where you're in the middle of a field, so you just got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt is what I do, and try to hash through it. And there's a lot of people out there that think that, oh, it can't be that hard. But I'll tell you what, this is one of the best written treasures that I've been on. The other one couldn't be solved that I was on, and that was because they used some Scottish queen's cipher that she created. Nobody'd ever even heard of it. So, you gotta take everything and try to figure what you can honestly believe and believe it, and then go from there. So is anybody hunting California?
I'm in California. This is Alan.
You're hunting California?
I'm not hunting in California for the Justin Hunt, but I live, born and raised, 45 years.
Okay. What part of California are you in?
Sorry, what was that?
What part of California?
San Jose, California.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know San Jose. I know Santa Cruz, and I left Sacramento, but I lived up in a little town called Auburn for about 25 years.
Yep, I know Auburn gets hot there, very hot, right?
Yeah, it's up at the top of the valley, but
yeah.
No, Tahoe fits a lot of the clues too, and so does the San Joaquin River. But again, a lot of rivers in a lot of places. But yeah, San Jose has changed a lot. I spent when I was in my 20s, I was going to school in Santa Clara, Hewlett Packard, and I had to drive every day from Modesto because I couldn't afford the rent in San Jose. But that was the peak of the .com, the boom and stuff. It would have been.
Hey, how's it going? Good. I'm Mike. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Mike.
I see you guys on Facebook.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah,
you got to mute.
Nice to finally meet you guys.
All right, that's a garbage.
Well, keep an eye out for all those earthquakes you guys have been getting out there. Be safe.
Sorry about that, guys. I was talking to some neighbors. I would love to see your maps if you wouldn't mind, sir, that Grandpa had from back in the days.
Yeah, they're topographical maps of the national forests and stuff. Are you searching Colorado?
I sure am, sir. The area you love to fish, so or used to love to fish back in the day. So I
Yeah.
have spent many of days there.
All right. Well, um, I'll see what I can find up there and stuff. Um, trying to think of the national forest that runs through there. Um,
San Juan.
okay, so yeah, but there's another one. Is it Lake County? Are you searching near the Arkansas at all, or are you on the other side?
No, closer to towards the San Juan,
Okay. Well, I know that
and Durango area.
one of his last trips were up into the San Juans. Um, on his pictures on Instagram, one of his pictures are the San Juan Mountains. Um, and I don't know if it's still there now. I don't pay that much attention to social media,
Yeah.
But I know that he went through and stopped at Sinks Canyon in
Yes.
23, and then he also stopped at San Juan Mountain somewhere. So spent some time. So
He also notes there ain't nothing like running across a treasure in the upper Rio Grande Valley.
that's right. And that's um, he must have spent a lot of time there with his family camping or something too. When the weekends weren't long and they couldn't go all the way to Montana, maybe they were running up the Rio Grande someplace because he was from Cloudcroft, right, in that area.
Yeah, I believe
And
they're from Cloudcroft and moved to Tucson at some point.
right, yeah, but they still have property in New Mexico.
Yes,
The
yeah.
Posey family does, and so he doesn't seem to think that's much of a legacy anymore. It's supposedly run down old place, but I don't know for sure. So, but is anybody searching Texas? You guys don't know what you're missing there in Texas. Somebody ought to if you guys get time, check out Guadalupe Peak, and that'll make your jaw fall. Um, it's a very interesting place. So, and it's in his search area. So, um, I'm pretty much wheelchair bound most of the time, so I spend probably too much time on some of this stuff. But yeah, there's some interest there, and even from the San Juans down to that area, it's doable in a day's drive. I mean, a long day's drive, but I urge everybody to take a look at the Guadalupe Mountains. And that's all I'll say about it because I don't want people thinking that I'm trying to give away a treasure or anything, but I'm not even searching there. I would if I was young, but I'm not. And again, you have to pay to go in there. So if it's where the treasure is, then it's going to be on the outside of any park that's there. So anyway, Utah. I love Canyonlands. I spent a lot of time in Canyonlands along many years ago too, and that's a beautiful place to hide a treasure. So now I'm going to Nevada, and I can't think of a damn place I'd put a treasure in Nevada. No offense to anybody following Nevada, but there's not a whole lot there. You get over in.
I've left a few at Bowers.
You love the what?
I've left a few at Bowers.
Well, the Washoe Valley is pretty, but when you get past Reno, then you're almost in California. It's almost like
I was saying I've left a few treasures in valleys.
Chip stacks. Valleys. I'm sorry. Yeah, Las Vegas. Yeah, It's Reno's a fun little city, but you can't. I don't know. That's just it. I don't know how I'm going to spend the winter. Every store you go into's got a slot machine in it. Just don't use any cash, I guess. That's all.
This is Alan just chiming in as far as California/Nevada. Anytime I hear about a treasure hunt that is residing in one of those two areas, I always lean towards Nevada because the California state laws for registering treasure hunts and contests, and Mike Cowlazars probably knows this more than I do.
Yes,
It's
yes.
extremely difficult to do anything legally in California. So I always
Que
just
puro hand
eliminate.
job, chingo.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. So what was it?
I
No,
need to sell this fucking house so I could having to do this shit.
I think his mic is just open. Go ahead, Alan.
Oh no, I was just saying like anytime I just eliminate my own home state of California because rarely is a treasure of this magnitude ever put here because of all the red tape and the challenges behind that. So just commenting on that.
Legal issues, huh?
Yep.
So what is it about the is it just his LLC is out of Wyoming, or it's funny because he said any and all, whether it's legal issues or federal or state issues, I should say, that they all have to be handled out of Wyoming. That doesn't necessarily mean the treasure's in Wyoming, does it? I mean, or should we believe that that's what it is?
Yeah, I don't think it means the treasure's there. I think he just had to pick a state for legal issues to say this is where it's based out of. This is the laws that are going to govern that type thing. Although Carl's a lawyer in New Mexico, so I don't know if that matters to the person who thinks he's the steward. But
Well, the other thing that I'm going to throw out there that I thought about for a minute is they have that, and I thought about it maybe longer than a minute, but they have that death zone around Yellowstone Park area, where Yellowstone goes into Idaho and Montana, and nobody really governs it. So they're saying you can get away with murder in that zone because there's nobody there to support it. And when I say it that way, it's both bad and good. I mean, we all remember Yellowstone, the show, right? The train station. Well, apparently the train station was in that 50-mile space that goes around those three states. So could that be where he decided to hide it because now he doesn't have to worry about anybody's claim to taxation without representation because they can get it and there's nobody there to report to. But if you do have to report to anything, Wyoming is the state that took that over because Yellowstone Park primarily is in Wyoming. So I always wonder if it's,
Wyoming has some of the most liberal and lax
LLCs.
laws of incorporation and stuff, along with transferability, being anonymous.
Right.
It used to be like New Hampshire and
Delaware.
Nevada, but Wyoming has taken the lead in that. So
that's probably why he's.
There's actually a lot of ways to create like non-taxable vehicles and stuff like that. So who knows what he's done? They could have gotten very creative with it.
Yeah, I mean I try to stay out of the politics of it, and I try not to. Well, I should try and say I'm trying not to put the politics of the hunt in there because he said it's somewhere on the map. It didn't say it's, and that's the only thing that bothers me about Alaska is Alaska's the size of a fifth of the United States, land wise, and so if you're going to hide a treasure in Alaska, just tell people it's in Alaska. You're,
Do we know of any single person being boots on the ground in Alaska?
I don't know. I was hoping that somebody was going to say, yeah, there's boots on the ground there because.
Well, my thought on my question, the reason for my question is if we know that people have been within 200 feet and no one's been in Alaska, we can rule that state out pretty doggone easily, I feel, at this
No,
point.
that's why
We do have some hunters in the Discord that are in Alaska.
Yeah, I've
that
seen
live
some
there. So.
rumblings on Reddit too.
Yeah.
But Hooli,
That's why
you don't think he's just saying people have been within 200 feet, not searchers?
Well, I'll tell you where I think it is in Alaska because I'm not going there. And it's the Aleutian Islands. Now everybody's like, why? Well, the way that he planted Alaska over to the side of the states and they put a border around it, and it's beyond the edge of the map. It's the only section of Alaska that goes beyond that black border on his map, which would mean beyond the edge of the map. And I think a lot of people don't take that as serious as maybe it is, but there's not a lot of things that go beyond the edge of the map. I mean, there's some words and there's some wordage and there's some things, but I also noticed that around the other map, it's either black or white border, and it doesn't matter. In California, it can be black and white. And I think it's his way of saying not here or maybe here or beyond this point, okay, but not beyond this point, or I don't know. It's just it gets kind of crazy, and there's really nothing left out there to search. But the Aleutian Islands, which is I think 14 or 15 islands out there that make up a big landmass, they're actually on the same latitude line as Montana and Canada. That's how far they arc down the archipelago, as well as the arc of the Arctic. So, I mean, there's a lot of arcs up there. That whole thing is an arc, is what they say. It's the, what do they call it? The Ring of Fire, right? So no, I was looking at that, and they have some very interesting things there. Like I said, I'm not going there, so I don't care.
And on that note, I don't think anyone's going there, like unless you live there. No one's
Exactly.
So, I mean, if you hit it there, that's the worst decision I've ever heard in my life from a treasure
I think
creator.
people will be upset. And, but again, if I hide a treasure, I'm going to hide it so nobody finds it. That's the way that treasure was meant to be found. Is some pirate stashed it or something. This commercialization to sell books and stuff is a whole different theory. And so you have to make it solvable. You have to give it some kind of reasoning. And I don't think you could give it a good enough reasoning to put it in Alaska. I think, I've talked to my partner, and she's in Tennessee, and she helps. She helps me with bounce ideas, and we both agree that there's a lot of people that aren't going to go to Alaska, no matter what. So
Let's talk about the 200 people who've been within 200 feet of the checkpoint. To me, that doesn't really mean anything. He didn't say searchers, he said people. All it means is the checkpoint is within 200 feet of where people have gone, not people that are looking for the treasure. What do you guys think?
I agree, Mike. I do. I think, but see, those could be searchers here on Discord, right? They don't have to be out walking around. They could be, hey, I'm at such and such place, Dillon Bookstores across the street, and I'm in a football field over here. You would say, oh, well, you're within 200 feet, so you're a 200 footer, So I don't
So
think
I
it's
think sorry that the 200-foot searchers are I mean 200-foot people are not necessarily searchers, and that if he has any way of knowing if somebody's there, like a trail cam or something like that, then he may not know if they are actually searchers or just people going nearby, where the checkpoint location is. And that way he will be able to specify if they were searchers. So, like using those words.
I think if you consider that he also mentioned this with people figuring out the first two clues, I think it just logically, it's within 5 or 200 feet of the first two clues.
Do you think he is referencing those same searchers?
I've given a lot of thought to like where generally he would put it, and I think he paid a lot of attention to safety. I think he wanted people around. I've run into 3 grizzlies and 100 rattlesnakes, and I'm glad I could holler if I needed to for help. So I think it's a public place with plenty of traffic and access. He's a really good hider too. He mentions that a lot. So I don't think he's scared a random person's going to find it. He's already addressed that too. But he also addressed that in the context of there is traffic there, and it's near where someone could accidentally pee on it.
I thought he said not near where someone could pee on it. Or
Well, he said no one's gonna accidentally pee on it, but I think
Right. Not the checkpoint, the treasure.
Yeah, and I think just from the safety aspect of it, I think it's not going to be too off the path. I know he mentioned he doesn't want it near the path, but I think that was alluding to it's not that far from a path either.
I think that one thing that people kind of gloss over when they say the no more than a mile is the way he answered the question in the very, very first interview that he did with you. When K-Pro asked, what about getting in shape and for safety? And he was like, oh, rest assured. He seemed like it was not far at all. And then he kind of threw out the mile. But the way he answered pretty much implied that it's really not that far out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think with him being hurt, it's a location I believe that Brandon found at one point, him and Brandon fishing, and he found this location. And I think he always thought of it as a good spot for a treasure. That's my opinion.
Going back to the Justin Posey post about some searchers finding or figuring out the first two clues. I think it said at least the first two clues. So when I was reading into that, I was wondering, does he know that people have solved more of the clues? Because he just says at least.
I was also wondering how Justin knows that so many people have figured out the first two clues. Is it another trail cam that people have been past, or people emailing him with their solves?
I believe Justin knows because of his reconnaissance before he even placed the treasure. Yes, I believe there were cameras, and yes, I believe he sees people going by.
Or has anybody thought maybe he already knows it's close to a trail and he feels people aren't invigorated with the hunt and are moving on to other things with some of the posts lately, and says, you know what, let me spark some fire back in these hunters.
just commenting on the trail cams. Average trail cam batteries might last a year at best. So I think if he was relying on the trail cams, that would require him to go back and visit it over time, depending on how long it goes. So I don't know about the trail cam.
I always thought his camera setup would be something from one of his patents where he was talking about developing X-ray vision from the documentary. I was thinking that whatever camera system he had out there was maybe not a trail cam, but some sort of other kind of camera system that had X-ray vision where you wouldn't even see a trail cam. It'd be hidden behind something that you have no idea was even there.
That would be pretty cool.
My thoughts are he plays something with the small solar panel up in the trees where nobody's gonna notice. He's disguised it well, and it'll never die.
I believe if you look at Reconnex brand, they come with a solar battery and antennas. And if it's within service, he could be sitting in Texas or wherever he's sitting and take a peek at my pictures.
That's why he's hanging out in Montana, right?
He could be in Montana. I've heard there's some sightings.
I think it's pretty simple and doesn't really necessarily require advanced technology. I just think if you're at the checkpoint, you're more than halfway through the poem. So, of course, you've solved the first two clues. And I think that's just how he knows that people have solved the clues and reached the checkpoint because people have gotten there.
I also believe that he's in on the discords and he's looking and listening now and all these things. I think when somebody told their version of the first clue, he might have said, wow. Just my theories, though. I also wanted to say one more thing. Cynthia's video in mile marker 42 down Highway 43. There's some interesting things there between 42 and 43 to look at.
What are they?
What are they? Well, if you look to the left up towards east and west, Goat Peak, it kind of begins to resemble a little bit like the cover of the book Beyond the Map's Edge.
Actually, speaking of that, I took a picture when I was boots on ground that I have a assumption about the cover.
I also believe at mile marker 42, it's very interesting because when you look at a gazetter, Montana, that is a baseline and it cuts off. And if you look at a different page, to me, that's beyond the map's edge. And what I got to say about that is this has always been my theory from day one. Right up past that mile marker, you go down a little ways further, and dare I say it, is a creek called Tucker Creek. Now, is it there? Don't know. Justin one time said, if you get to know me on a baseline level, well, if you look at that gazetter and if you look at mile marker 42, right in that particular spot, life changes and there's a baseline on the map. And I've got more if you want to hear it.
Well, I agree. I think there's baselines and meridians that are different in every state. So if you're in one state, you can't follow a baseline to another state. For instance, in Colorado, baseline is actually the 40th parallel just by coincidence. And that's where I grew up. And so you would go down Baseline Road. So that's why I know that. And then the meridians, of course, are for time, Greenwich, how many hours over, so mountain time is like -7 hours or whatever it is. So they are different in every state, and it's only because that's how they made the maps. That's how they make the topographical maps. They start with a baseline and a meridian that they know is true, and then they build off of that.
All right.
And the ones that were built for Montana, they use what they call meridian guides, and you can find them online. But those meridian guides are Polaris, Dillon. They're these towns. They're the Wise River. There's like 6 or 7 that are on his map that are actually the guides to the actual meridians. So, I mean, yeah, if it's in Montana, there's a good chance that that's what he used. But again, even with that knowledge, unless you're ready to go out and start shooting grade, it's going to be real difficult to find something.
Well, listen, if you go from Wisdom, Montana, and run a straight edge to Bear Gulch, just right by East Bank Campground, which Justin's photoed in at a concrete boat ramp. Just right there is also Bear Gulch, and up the road from there is Bear Mountain. If you take a straight edge and go from Wisdom to that, it runs through a peak called Trident Peak. Could that be her foot of 3 at 20 degrees? You go and do your math, you go do that 20 degrees. Anybody listening, I would suggest you do this, maybe, to shut me down at the very least of my theory. I would love to get out of this rabbit hole and look into others. I watched Cynthia's video. The one thing about the scenic byway is a lot of people around the country don't realize that it's closed till May 15th-ish. Due to snow. So accessibility and the elevations up there contradict what Justin may have meant as a hunting season. He didn't want us hunting in the snow. So it leads me to believe it's at the confluence of, say, a creek or water silent flight, or just, who knows what's going on up there.
So is that a ski area right there, though?
No, Maverick ski area is in the Grasshopper Valley heading up the scenic byway. It's called Maverick.
And that overlooks Wisdom, though, right?
No, but Wisdom is in shadowed side of it. As you're driving the scenic byway, when you become kind of parallel with Wisdom, you're kind of around Crystal Park, maybe going towards Moose Park, and some of the places that Emma, Jam, and Cynthia and Scott filmed their wonderful video.
Okay, yeah, because I looked through that Maverick, and it's BLM land because it's a ski resort, and but I thought that the lifts would also be, walk near waters, silent
flight. Now, my theory.
No, they run those lifts, but during the summer, they usually will run one lift just for people to get to the top and take pictures or whatever. So I don't know. Again, it's a lot of, it's a lot to take in, but I think that it makes sense. I mean, there's just so many levels that make sense, though.
All right. Now, adding to my theory, in one of his chapters, I can't remember exactly what it is, he talks about the enthusiasm of the Lepidostris or whatever. He speaks about a guy who studies butterflies. I've been saying for a long time the butterfly's interesting because locally there's a saying that if you could see the butterfly on the 4th of July, which is up on East Goat Peak, as that melts away, that could be water silent flight. And it rolls down Calvert Creek, which is right across from Tucker Creek. There is some BLM land there surrounded by private. It's actually been the ranch that owns it, the private land surrounding it, wants to acquire it. So that's what I know as a local.
And that's what he's kind of against.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Just my thoughts.
But would he? Well, you know, so and again, that's, you know, part of my original thoughts on some of those lines were round the bend. Well, when I grew up, round the bend means you're going to a happy place. You're probably going to be put away in a straitjacket. So a lot of people don't, you know, that was another way of saying you're crazy. And you know, so I know that there's the crazy mountains just right across the valley there, right? I mean,
they're not far. You know, Crazy Mountains are a little ways further than Wisdom, and I don't know if it fits. I don't know if it fits.
I don't know either.
Not to take away from your thoughts.
I'm not. It's not in my search area anymore. I'm just saying, there's so many different layers that how many, you know. This last week, I put some of my theories to test right here in Colorado.
You gotta get them ready for tonight. Put them to charge. Let me know, that way I could go cruising and give me or get a beer and go.
Oh no, it's cool, man. So he's done before he went to Red River, but
How much spacer do you want?
70. It's in the backyard to see it.
Yeah, I saw it.
Hey guys, you
Mine's
got
almost identical.
hot mics.
129.
Guys.
So mine's exactly that.
So I want to do that because I got the. So
Mike
I was
Altman.
gonna call you. Yeah, you're almost missed.
Mike Altman, you have a hot mic.
Yes.
I feel like I'm watching my grandkids at school.
Sorry about that, guys.
So what's for dinner, Mike? I missed that.
Something about a beer. That's all I caught.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have a few beers, celebrate. We've had a big weekend chasing hunts, so it's time to wind down and relax.
All right. Well, good luck to you guys. I'm gonna get off, y'all, and you'll see me from time to time on. But I don't know. He did a good job on ways to hide something. That's for sure. If anybody decides to head to Nevada after next week, just drop me a line on here, and I'll see what I can find for you. All right. Y'all take care. Good night.
Have a good one.
Thanks a bunch.
Good night.
Take it easy.
Everybody go away?
No, still here.
Who's that?
David.
Hello, David.
Mike.
I'm Tad.
Hey, Ted.
Just listening and folding bar towels right now.
Yeah, I'm just sitting in my little treasure hunting room in the basement listening to you guys.
I should actually be down where I feel. How many people joined this Zoom?
I don't know total. There was about 20-ish on average, I think is what I was seeing. I don't know. A couple might have came and gone. And
Well, good thing.
So how much time have you guys spent like actually searching, or like what's the distance you guys have covered so far?
Oh, I've got a lot. I'm out of Wisconsin, but we've been in Wyoming. Got a trip planned to Montana, hopefully here shortly. Wyoming didn't pan out, obviously, since I'm not holding the treasure. So,
Can you say where it is not?
yeah, I'm actually really happy to share that. I wish more people did share, where they've been, where it didn't work out. But I went to Bridal Veil Falls in Wyoming at the Clark's Fork Canyon. My idea for it, or the solve that I was having, was a little vague, but I was using as hope surges clear and bright, kind of Sunlight Basin there. Moving through Sunlight Basin, water silent flat. Of course, you got a number of waterfalls as well as canyons where that water pretty much disappears if you're walking above the canyon walls. The sound of it pretty much disappears anyway. Around the bend, past the hole, just looking at, there's various kayaking and fishing holes, obviously, through that entire stretch, running west to east. And then in Ursa East is Realm Waits, using that as Clark's Fork Canyon. His being William Clark, of course. His bride stands guard at Ancient Gates. When you're looking east to west into the canyon, you do have the canyon walls that kind of formed gates, in my opinion. Her foot of three, there's 3 drops on that waterfall, particularly if you get up to the upper falls, roughly 20 degrees from the lower falls, if you were to shoot an azimuth. Return her face to find the place. We were assuming if it was Bridal Veil Falls, the entire concept of a bride wearing a veil, the groom reveals her face, of course, at the end of the ceremony to return her face to find the place. So that was kind of our whole idea there, and we searched around pretty heavily, made it all the way up to the upper falls, and didn't find. It is pretty easy search area, so it's not like you could have missed much there. It was a good trip.
Yeah,
It's funny how many Bridal Veil Falls there are in the country.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. I definitely recognize that. There's a bunch even on his map, but not all of them I couldn't really make good solves for.
Mm-hmm.
So early on, in the book, he talks a lot about windmills and an area that generates about 20 megawatts, it sounds like, or enough to power a small city. I want to know if anybody's like found an area that kind of seems similar to what he's saying in that.
I do have that as part of my solve, but only as kind of a a local indication, nothing particular in the poem.
I definitely think that would be a good area to start. I'm feeling there's some windmills around the spot that it's in, 20 something windmills in the area, or wind turbines, I guess.
What story is that from?
You know what? I don't have the book right now. I'm sorry, I'm at work. And I know it's early on in the book. I can tell you exactly where it's at, but I could post something on the last YouTube video from Cowlazars, and or within Discord, and I'll put something in there so you guys can see exactly where it's at.
Cool, thanks. I haven't been around any wind turbines.
Yeah, me neither. I picked up on it listening to the audiobook last week, and I was like, oh, I really hadn't paid attention to hear that part of it, but makes a lot of sense. But maybe not. Who knows?
Just speaking of like method, I decided to start with the poem, kind of like he says. I pretty much followed that until I had a solid idea. And then I started looking at the book. Um, and, you know, it doesn't hope for confirmation bias, but when you have some really good ideas and then find them supported, it definitely makes you feel pretty good.
Right.
Yes, sir. I completely agree.
Yes, Cynthia herself said it was nice to hunt with like-minded people, Emma and Scott, that had similar thoughts.
One of the things we've really struggled with is, you know, how difficult is the search, like actually physically strenuous. Him having a cast on, but his willpower and dedication, it almost sounds like he didn't adjust his plan whatsoever just because of the cast, which made us kind of worry, made her cry a few times. But
Yeah, speaking to that, you know, when I'm out boots on the ground, I've probably hiked around 32 miles in the wild, in the wilderness area, up and down mountains. And I always tell myself, okay, would this be an area that he's willing to climb, you know, and with a broken tibia or healing tibia or whatever. Um, I'm like, would I really want to climb this area? And I know he said it was strenuous by the third or fourth time he made the trip. So I'm sure it's about, like you said, you know, within a mile of a parking lot, road, whatever, where they parked. But how hilly and how much he's willing to climb, I don't think he's going to climb a straight up 0 to 5,000 feet, you know, or 2,000 feet. I think it's going to be a small hill, maybe nothing too strenuous. Most of it's probably going to be a pathway or along the river that he's fished or hiked, you know. That's just my thoughts.
Yes, and I have a thought that it was more strenuous on him in his first trip where he did reconnaissance and he was checking things out. He would have been less healed up, and that would have been a little more taxing on his broken bone.
so are you thinking that his 4 trips were spread out over time? Because I've always pictured him like, you know, doing it in one day or one night, something like that.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think he and his crew, he calls them. I believe there was 3 or 4 of them that hid the treasure, and of course he's kept it silent through this whole thing. Kept them silent because he doesn't want them to be hunted down. But I completely agree that it was hidden in one night, and they may have went back to do the final decoration, and it'll all come out in the end. But the area is well decorated to be found within a shadowed site. That's my opinion on that.
Interesting.
Where do you find that he had a crew? He's said multiple times he's the only person on the earth that knows where it is.
Where the treasure
I happen
is.
to believe him.
I think the whole crew thing is correct from what I was saying earlier, but I do believe that he's the only one that knows where the actual gold treasure is. But you could still have other people helping do other things and set up stuff without knowing where the treasure is.
Yeah, I honestly think there's at least 3 people that know exactly where it is other than Justin, but they're really close, immediate family that he knows are going to be holding that secret with him till the end, or till the treasure is found, and they have helped him find the treasure.
That's interesting.
No,
Has he ever?
I
has he
disagree
ever
about
s-
other
I'm sorry.
people knowing where the treasure's at, but
I also thought it was interesting, like, why 4 trips? I mean, it's 70 or 60 pounds, I think he said, which for a guy that treasure hunted for 10 years is not a big deal. I mean, to get that in one trip, unless it's really vertical stuff, isn't very hard. I was in the infantry for a lot of years, and that's just kind of a standard backpack. So I don't know. Was it go scout the location because he said he already knew it for years, and then take half, and then another half, and then go finish hiding it, or like would any of us leave $1 million unhid once it's there, even for any amount of time? I spent a lot of time thinking about why 4 trips specifically.
So I think honestly, just because it's broken tibia, right, and those 4 trips, the weight of that, carrying it in, and then so I don't know if you guys have found this within the book, but he broke the container at one point, and they had to get it repaired. So they're using a branch or a limb that broke, which the treasure fell broke. So it does have a crack in it. But this will come out later, I'm sure.
I'll say something. I'm a physical therapist, and a common injury I treat is a tibial plateau fracture, which is basically the top of the tibia where the knee is. And often, if people have a surgery to repair it, they are non-weight bearing for anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. And then after that, they are slowly allowed to progress to full weight bearing. And that can take a few weeks before the person is comfortable doing it, even if they're cleared. And so, as a person is getting used to bearing more weight through that healing bone, their muscles are weak, their joint can't really accept the load because they've been non-weight bearing for several weeks. To suddenly add 60 pounds onto that limb is a little bit too much for it. And so he may have just been conscious of his bone healing, and that is why he divided it up. That's my best explanation. Where he was probably out of the cast, allowed to walk, still kind of unsteady, still pretty weak, and just didn't want to overstress his joint.
That is excellent info. Thank you.
I've had a tibia plateau fracture, and I agree.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm standing on my. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just not sure that I'm quite buying the multiple people helping at this point. One person can keep a secret, but not 2 or 3 or 4. That's a huge risk that he's taking. It doesn't matter how close they are to you. I mean, that's a golden rule in life. You want something kept a secret, you keep it to yourself. So,
Even if you had NDAs in place?
yeah, I mean, NDAs only do so much, and you still, if they are that close to you and they do have an NDA even in place, are you still going to sue your brother? I mean, come on.
Well, and you're never exactly going to know, especially with 3 people, which person told, or if you're super sleuth and figure out the connection. But I've been talking about hiding a treasure with my wife when we get it, and she's not happy that I'm not going to tell her where it's at.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Don't tell me you're not telling your wife, because that wouldn't be good.
and I love her to death, but I mean, who wants to be in that position later? One day.
Exactly.
I mean, that was a big thing with the Fen treasure too. Yeah.
That sounds like jam.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if other I have a feeling that other people are involved, but maybe compartmentalized. So one person who did whatever doesn't know what this other person did, and so on and so forth. So if other people are helping, they only know their one little piece, and if they don't know every other one's piece, then it might not mean much.
Yeah, I'm super curious about the container.
Sounds like the building of the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if I knew what it looked like, maybe I passed it. But I mean, just in general, why is he concerned about AI knowing what the container is? That was huge to me. Like, I personally, I know he says no one has, but I've got a cipher figured out that led me to a specific place. And he said it's a nod to the container, and I just can't wrap my head around how it works like that. There's a couple ideas, but um, yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious about the container.
Yeah, help me out with that one. So the cipher though, which I haven't figured out, but that one, it is just a nod to the container, correct? Not
That's the
a,
way he put it. Yeah.
not a part of the location of the treasure. Just telling you kind of what the container is.
Well, I'll just say mine has a lot of information in it. But no, I guess there could be nods, but nothing specific about the container, which just has me stumped if I have it all wrong and it's just so happenstance that this worked out. I mean, the chances are pretty astronomical, and they get worse when I go to that location, like as in more astronomical. It works too well. But as soon as he said that it's a nod to the container, I was like, what am I on then? I don't understand. Like I said, I have a few theories about it, but man, that one's got me going pretty good.
Same here. I agree that that one's got me. I at one point felt like it was Tucker gleaming in a little hidden spot somewhere, and titanium and aluminum color. And then I kicked it around once the rainbow came out. Rainbow trout, he is a fisherman. And then after listening to the additional story, I'm like, okay, is it a shrimp? So I'm with you guys on that one.
Well, on that note, he does highlight that lobster coin a lot, which is, I don't know how you'd make a box out of a lobster, but it's pretty cool.
Well, he could have bought one paper mache, kind of like the old piñata here in New Mexico when we hit for a birthday party, and then did his own little touches of titanium and aluminum to it, and then hit it.
I was under the assumption that it was a technical clue that offered a nod to the container, but then the cipher was just a clue.
That that could work with my solve very well if that was it. Maybe I misheard him. I'm definitely gonna have to go back and look now. I also feel I have the technical clue worked out. I know he said only one person has, but I had a certain background that worked very well. Um, and it was something I figured out both the cipher and the technical clue in about the first 2 hours I was working on the poem. And it isn't in the poem, and he didn't break that until a lot later.
I'm looking at my hiking
Anybody
boots right now.
believe to be the cipher?
What about the cipher?
I said, has anybody found what they believe to be the cipher and the nod to the container?
I'm 100% sure I have the cipher. Um, I mean, he says no one has it. I've messaged him pretty much all along the way to the support email. I received one, hey, we're happy you're having a good time. That's what it's all about. That's about the only response I got. But yeah, as far as the cipher, like I said, I figured it out in 2 hours before I watched the show, before I had the book. It was just on the website doing exactly as I was told, and it led me right to it. So there's my hint to you guys.
So it led you to another website.
No, not at all.
Can you repeat that?
It did not lead me to another website. The cipher is on the website where the poem is.
Gotcha. So you're talking about treasure.com, Justin's website.
Yeah, I think it's treasure.quest, yeah.
Is this somebody who is, so something that somebody who's completely computer illiterate can figure out? Or is this kind of like a techie, computery technical clue?
Definitely not hard. Like I said, 2 hours just doing what I was told, and I went right to it. Laying in bed.
You say what you were told. What does that mean?
I mean, all the instructions are, I mean, the first stanza of the poem, like I said earlier, I had saw in reading through the website that he'd mentioned that they are in consecutive order. And so my process has been do not move to the next step unless you're sure about the one you're on. So I started on the first stanza, and that's how I got it.
But I thought he said it was not in the poem.
It is not in the poem.
So you're saying it's something on the website page, but not the poem.
Still going.
That's correct, yeah. It is not in the poem. The poem does tell you how to find it, though, in the first stanza. And then the cipher I unlocked told me exactly where to start, and it worked extremely well. So much it's not chance at this point. But it doesn't, it could nod with some stretching, which I hate to do on something like this. It could nod to the container, but I don't feel like it does enough for as precise as Justin has been so far in my experience. So it makes me wonder if it is total happenstance that my cipher worked.
So touching
But
on his post about people have solved the first two clues, I guess
Right.
I've always kind of looked at the poem, stanza of the poem, as having clues in it, but he stated that hope surging clear and bright was the first actionable clue, but not the first clue.
Absolutely.
So is he saying that people solve the first two clues in the first stanza, or the first two actionable clues, do you think?
When I solved the cipher, my anxiety was so high, I ran up there in 3 feet of snow to look because I thought someone was just, it was too easy. So, he's said no one has solved the cipher, though, since I've sent him that information, which I don't know if he's seen it. Or the other theory I have is that I haven't completely solved it. There is still some jumbled part. But I don't know if it's filler, because a lot of codes have filler. Yeah, I'm still scratching my head on it, but it's too perfect, and it was too easy, and he's always said it's easy, and it really was.
And it brought you to your start location.
Yeah, exactly. No question. It wasn't any kind of stretch. It was exactly where to go. As a matter of fact, it says go to.
Okay. And then since you went to that location, did you find the evidence of the other clues and the bride and all that kind of stuff too?
I've put in 70 miles. That's how sure I am. And dodged bears and snakes, and I'm still going back.
Well, thanks for sharing. That's super interesting.
I feel like yeah, it's lonely out there. But honestly, it's kind of like a sanity check. Once someone else figures this out, I don't know. Like, I've shown my wife, and she's like, "Wow, that's amazing," and she's not really into the treasure thing, so I'm not sure how to read it sometimes. Yeah,
Did you get like a written instruction, like with words, or was it more of like a coordinate type instruction?
I won't really go into that.
Okay. I
Yeah,
understand.
I won't.
No worries.
But I will say it is so easy. Everyone stared right at it the whole time. I mean, it is not complicated at all. When he said it's as easy as 1+1, it really is.
Where did he say that at? I don't remember that part.
I think it was at the book signing. He said it's as easy as simple math or something like that. I think he said if
Yeah, he
you
said
can do
that.
1+1 = 2, you can figure it out. Like it's that easy.
Well, if you're talking about
So
the
does it?
it has the poem. I mean, basically, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 places, 5 places below the poem. So you're using those words somehow in some way, right?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. There's places below the poem.
Right. There's 5 sections below the poem.
Oh, no, I'll just say it's on that page with the poem on the main page.
Does it include math?
When you say on that page, you mean the website or the book?
On the website.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I just had, like I said, I hadn't even purchased the book yet, and I hadn't watched the show yet. So
Well, the website says start with the map, right? Because you entered this website, you saw a map. Start there. So maybe the map, huh?
Could be.
But I don't understand how that would be. But anyway, okay. Interesting. Now, how will you feel at the end of this thing if you find out you were wrong? It was a coincidence.
Like I said, it's so astronomical. I don't even know how I would feel. Like I was meant to be there. Like I was meant to be there anyways.
You'd be like, Justin, what the hell? How did this happen? But as one thing I've learned in treasure hunts, coincidences happen.
Agreed.
It's
Yeah.
like, no way. And it's like, yeah, that was a coincidence.
I think he would be shocked if it's a coincidence, and I'm sure he would feel a little sorry. I would.
So what state are you in?
Right now, I'm in Utah at my house.
I think on 3, everybody should just shout the state that they're in.
Are you not looking for the Utah treasure at all? The 25K?
I think I saw that one was found. I could be wrong, but there's several that go on. We just had a $10,000 hunt in my town the weekend before last. So my plan is to outshine them with, a 2-kilo bar.
Yeah, Mike, they have it posted who the winners of that hunt is. It was found today.
Oh, nice. Did they give the solution yet?
That I don't know.
I will
On
say,
that-
just kind of going back to the map, he's always said, start with the map, and I think his exact words were that the map is useful. I have not found a single useful thing to do with that map, if I'm being honest.
Well,
I
it tells
agree.
you which half of the United States to start in.
Yes, but other than that, I just look at it and I'm like, I don't see anything on there that helps personally, but that's just me. I'm wondering if there's more to it that I've missed.
And do you think he goes off the map for any of his clues beyond the map's edge? I always look at that, go back to that logo.
Yes.
I don't think so.
My logo lines up to like different other lines in my general area. But it's still within the map of the area that we're searching in. So I think it's on there somewhere.
I think what's unique about the website map is it does mention Polaris and Dillon. Pretty small names amongst all those other big national parks, monuments, and other things. So that is almost certainly to me a telltale that it was at least in Montana. Anybody who opens that first page, sees the map, looks over the names, and they go Polaris, Dillon, amongst all these other big names, that is kind of a telltale sign.
But where is his northern star?
I guess I would agree with that.
Does anyone know? I can't remember if it's on the website or somewhere else where he describes what these words mean, and he kind of defines what hint/clue means and what treasure means and that kind of thing. I'm trying to look for that, but I can't remember where it was.
It's on the general all the updates page, and if I remember right, it just says there is no difference. He considers those two the same.
Mike, I just posted the picture of the winners in the chat for the Utah hunt.
I guess I'm stuck. I'm stuck here looking at my hiking boots. Right off my back shoulder back here is Proposal Rock. There's been several people that have put that into their solve. I will say something interesting. The Big Hole Valley Association did a 4th of July treasure hunt, and that's where they put it, was up there. So there were quite a few people scrambling up Proposal Rock right up Steel Creek Road and stuff like that from right here, just slightly east of Wisdom. But yeah, that's in my backyard right here. And downstream is where I ought to be going right now. But I'm very interested in hearing other theories today on this Zoom meeting. Cowlazars, thank you. Thank you again. And hunters, if you find yourself in Wisdom, Montana, don't forget about Antler Saloon. Yeah, gotta plug it.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun. Do you guys want to end it or you guys want to keep going?
I'm gone.
It's been great. It's been my first time meeting this crew, so I really just appreciate everyone here, and it's been fun.
Yeah, this is fun. Maybe we could do it again.
I agree. It's been a really good time. Thank everybody for their wisdom.
No pun intended, right?
Exactly.
Thanks for hosting, Cowlazars.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining, everybody. It was a lot of fun. We'll do it again sometime for sure. All right. Well, with that, I guess I'm going to shut it down till next time. All right.
Happy hunting.
All right. See you, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. See ya.